Hey everybody, Abhi here. So let me share my screen and let me bring the demonstration part forward. So right now, you have seen how the workflow looks like, how you can utilize the technology for visualization, power of the graph databases. So when we come to the implementation of these solutions, I think something which stands out technically is to look at the scale and the size and the speed at which we have to perform these operations and take these graphs to production environments. So looking at the data set, we are talking about something like 20,000 petabytes of data would be in the healthcare system by 2020, including these healthcare IoT devices, what we wear on our hands. That brings in challenge of integrating external data sources, which are ever increasing. Some of them are open source, other of them coming from FDAs to third-party tools. And then there are health insurance plans, which are on the business side of it, local, multi-state, universal healthcare, keeping in mind that we are developing all these applications which are feeding into the market trends out there, whether backed by AIs and machine learning. You're talking about direct advertising, targeted content, customer 360. So all these things in mind, the technological opportunities basically lies at the size of cleansing of the data, improving the data quality, deduping the information, and of course there are some legal requirements which we have to adhere to as we make this data public. Not just the PII information, but whatever we show on our website. So with respect to all these things in mind and all the scale that we have looked in the past, it's very easy for us to conclude that healthcare is creating new requirements for the applications that relational technology at least cannot handle. The scale of this information of 20,000 plus petabytes is just huge. And the NoSQL isn't relational to the levels where business value lies in the hidden patterns of unknown data depth. So what does this mean? This means that even if we are trying to find out some similarity between our patients or some kind of XYZ entities or the prescribers, how many ways in this world can they be related? They could be related by social media, maybe Facebook friends, maybe living at same address, maybe went to the same colleges, maybe the doctors are prescribing the similar treatments to them. So the challenge with relational and NoSQLs have been that if you are designing a solution around them, you need to find the path which you need to follow. What if we throw all this data in, and the data, then the solution itself is able to find out all the end paths which are possible between these entities? But that's only possible using the graph databases, where you don't know or you don't want to know what path to follow to find a correlation. The data is in the hidden depths. Taking that into consideration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a few demos. We are going to use some external data set for speed and scale. I'm going to do some live loading, and I will do some real-time analytics, joining two different data sets, and then I will try to take you to some machine learning possibilities also if the time permits. To begin with, let me show you what the solution I have here. There are generally three ways to graphify your world with TigerGraph. You have application layers with APIs, then there is a Linux shell, but this is the most popular one, Visual SDK, called Graph Studio. Here you can design your schema, which is technically your use case, which is healthcare, any silo or joining a lot of silos together. Your data lies externally, so that has to be brought in, whether using some connector frameworks we have from Sparks to XYZ. And once you do the mapping, the data has to be loaded. You need to have exploration capabilities, as Scott was showing you. And on top of that, you need to write your business logic too. So that's the write queries. Along with that, there are various different administrative capabilities. But what I'm going to do right now, just focus on this use case. With Graph Studio on the side, what you're looking at here is called a Faers data set. It's FDA's Adverse Event Reporting System. So anybody who sells drugs in this country has to inform the FDA if something goes wrong with their drug in any part of the world. Let's say somebody has an adverse reaction in Japan, it has to be reported because Takeda sells drugs in the United States or any other company. Similarly, the US companies and European companies have to inform to FDA. This is a very much RDBMS data set from last 10, 15 years. FDA has been releasing this in RDBMS format, but we took that data set, we converted each table into nodes, and we imported the information inside our system. So a pharmaceutical company reports a case that has an outcome, patient lived or died, like what is the reported source, hospital or somebody else, what are the reaction to the drugs, maybe depression or headaches or things like that. Who was the patient, what were their demographics, and what sequence drug was given in, because at the time patient is taking too many drugs, so it's not one or two drugs they are on, whether this drug is a primary suspect. So a lot of this information is over here, and we loaded this data into the system. And if you look at this, we're talking about some 37 million vertices, 132 million edges into the system, which has almost 9 million indications, 5 million therapies. So decent chunk of data is already preloaded into the system. What can we do with this? Now, I will take you to exploration of the graph in some other demonstration, but let me show you what can this data set be used for. Market intelligence, competitive intelligence, business intelligence, and it can be integrated with your internal systems to do some very smart analytical operations. So let me start with something very basic here, which for us is basic, but takes a lot of time on some other systems to do. I'm looking for a drug which is primary suspect from a company, Pfizer, and I want top 5 of them. So as I open this newer window, I'm going to show you the path what we followed. So you say something around 150 million plus entries. I'm going to find pharmaceutical company, all the reported cases, which are primary suspect, as on the purple line, and then I'm going to do the summation, aggregation of all the reported cases on the drugs, and pick up the top 5 because I'm going to sort them out too. So anybody who is in the technology business knows this is, and even on RDBMS side, this is a very complex operation, and with 200 million entries inside, the sorting itself is a challenging exercise. Nothing is cached in here. This is a live system, no caching involved at the background, over 200 million records. And let me run this query. Based on the rendering on the browser, also based on the internet connection we are on and this WebEx which is running, this is probably 60 to 90 millisecond query. And Lyrisa and various different drugs, Lipitor, they are here, top 5 drugs of Pfizer that have been reported in the market for some adverse events. And there are some 12,000 cases for Lipitor over here. It's been ordered, it's been sorted, and it's been displayed to you. That is without any caching. So that's the speed at a scale on which graph databases like TigerGraph can navigate your path without any foreign key, primary key restraint, and drive the results in a matter of milliseconds. Now I'm going to take it one further, and I'm going to say not only show me the top 5 drugs, but also bring me the top 5 side effects. We are adding extra hop queries on top of that, what we already have. The results are back, same 5 drugs. And as you can see, let's go to Lipitor, and you would see type 2 diabetes is a side effect, and the count of it too. Drug hypersensitivity. So we did aggregation, under aggregation, and then quickly showed you the results back. Now the query time would be probably some milliseconds more than what it was earlier. So this is the speed at a scale on which the technology actually operates and bring the results back to you. One is speed and scale. Another one is how do you take this data inside your system? It's a distributed system. So if we are using the advantage of multi-cores, how about the loading of the data? So I'm going to extend this use case right now, and I'm going to show you something. Joining of 2 silos together. So as you see, this is the Faers dataset on the right-hand side. And I have joined it with the internal dataset for the NPIs. I will explain this in the next example. And now there's no information inside the system. You see right-hand side, it's totally zero. I'm gonna load the data into the system, which is 100 gigabytes. I'm going to my servers. As you can see, let me very quickly show you. I have 3 boxes, 3 different servers, AWS instances, commodity machines. They have 43 gig, 38 gig, and 38 gig of data. So 3 servers with 3 different data sets are going to be loaded in parallel right now. I'm going to trigger this, and we're going to come back to it during a couple of other demos. And let me trigger this loading. It's saying the system is getting started. It's a much more complex data set, which is getting loaded from what I showed you. Okay, everything looks fine. Okay, the loading has started. So I'm going to switch back and take you to my slides here. So what I've just done when I started doing this parallel loading is that, we are loading the complex parallel loads right now. So I have made the system even more complex. I have brought in an extra data set. So it's just not Faers, it's also Medicare Part D data from a healthcare provider. And this is what has happened. I have 3 boxes, which I was showing you, which are M4, 4x large, AWS instances, 16 cores, 64 gig, 100 gigabytes of data set that include 2 billion edges. And we think it should be finished in less than 15 minutes. So we are showing you power of our system in terms of parallelly loading the data inside. Okay, so let me quickly switch on to the next demo, where I will show you the power of the joining of these 2 different data sets. Here we go. This is our test drive where I'm leading you. Test drive, you can see various different data sets and videos. I will recommend you have a look at it. It's a free test drive. And over here, there is a healthcare graph, which does exactly what I'm loading. I have explained you the greener side on the right-hand side. Let's take on the left side of it. Each company have a lot of information in internal silos, and this demo is no different. All these NPI, National Provider IDs, when they file for claim with a healthcare provider, there is money involved, and they also let you know that what are the drugs which have been recommended to these patients. And of course, we can divide the NPIs in terms of the specialities they have. A lot of other information. You can see attributes on top of each node. So if you're thinking in a row columnar way, these are the attributes where the attribute goes on a particular node. We know NPIs addresses. Some claims are regular claims. Other claims are opioid claims. So the common point here is the drugs. Now, drugs in the market with the Faers data set, we know what the side effect is. Over here, we know how the drugs have been getting recommended from the industry, from the various NPIs. So at the drug level, keeping the volumes aside, or how many tablets, or what kind of milligram aside, these are the same drug names. So you can join these 2 data sets together, and they would perform wonders for you. One is your internal data set, another one is the external data set. And let me show you quickly what kind of data we are talking about here. 42 million vertices, 100 million edges into the system. And let's start with what we can do with this prescriber database. First of all, I want to find what are the top drugs that, number of specialties. Let's say, who are the providers, especially with terms of subspecialty, who are recommending most of the opioid drugs. So if you're looking for opioid fraud, or you want some kind of analytics around it, you're going to start with some kind of very basic operation, which appears basic, but has to churn over a lot of data sizes, and the rows and the columns, what we call nodes and the edges in our system. Let me find out top 5 specialties that have been recommending the most of the opioid drugs. And as you can see, family practitioners come right on the top here. They have recommended this drug 74,000 times. in some specific region for which I have the data inside the system. Just see how quickly this aggregation actually happened. And once I have this information, I need to find what are top side. Give me a minute, please. What are the top drugs? Okay. So for what are the 5 choices, top 5 choices, what drugs they are actually recommending? Opioid drugs. Name the drugs which have been recommended the most. And as you can see, 5 drugs over here. Oxycontin is one of them. Oxycodone is one of them. So these are the top 5 opioid drugs that they have been recommended. So the basic aggregation, the basic collection, the data science operation, what you do on top of your data sets is so fast without creating any extra indexes, just by the virtue of ingestion of the data inside the graph databases. You're capable of creating very smart, intelligent features for your analytics and your machine learning algorithms. Since we have joined the data set of Faers together with this internal opioid claim data, I'm going to take this example of even further, taking into connecting the available data with the market research. Now, whenever we talk about any side effects of the drugs, we always say, okay, listen, that's a clinical research. Side effects come from a research department, but there are ways to conduct the research on your data from the market, what it is saying. Now, let's look at the example over here, where I'm going to say, I know what are the opioid drugs are, and this data is getting loaded in here. And I'm going to say, what are the top 5 opioid drug side effects, because the side effects come from Faers dataset. So here is a query, which is a GSQL query, as initially Gaurav explained to you. This is how you code your business logic in our system. Now I'm going to say, show me the top 5 side effects of opioid drug. How do I know this? Here is the opioid flag. We know what drugs are opioid drugs. We know what is the drug sequence of primary suspect drugs and reported cases. And each case has reactions and outcomes. Very quickly, we'll take a little bit more time, sub-second query again, and here are the results. It's mind-boggling. It's a real-time result and from real market data set. We've been told overuse of opioid means drug ineffective, nausea, pain, fatigue, and headache. Hence proven by the market research too, not just by clinical research. Well, of course, clinical research holds way higher value, but in terms of market research, this holds a lot of value for sales, marketing, and business development side of your drug delivery and discovery. Okay, so now let's do the basic data mining operation, looking for Jacquard similarity based on a reported case. Has reactions, so we will find all the similar reactions. Find me the top cases which are similar to the case which I just mentioned. So I'm running the query here, and if you look at the output of it, here are the top 5 similar cases, and here are the case numbers which are similar to it. As you can see, here is the similarity count. This is 0.2% same to the case which we gave. Now I'm going to take you to another window, and I'm going to show how these things were actually found similar. I'm going to explore on this graph. I'm going to pick up the similar case number 1. So here is the case. Let's find our input case. Here are the 2 cases. Here's the input, here's the output. Let's expand it. All you're seeing in the green are the reactions, and now I'm going to expand these. Now you can see among all the similar cases, why they are similar, because there are so many common reactions between these 2 reported cases. Now let's dig into that. Asthma, wheezing, coughing, throat tightness. So as you can see, these were overlapping terms based on the Jacquard similarity. That's why this is 0.2% similar.